Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of A Guardian Speaks. So there's two things I want to talk to today. One of them is to do with recent events in the UK. Rewinding back now to the days of heightened tensions, anger, and the subsequent events that unfolded around that, what's being called riots. I wouldn't have classified them as riots, especially not compared to other comparable instances over previous years, over the past decade. Anyway, so I should preface this. I would want to preface this and lay down the foundation of what I'm about to say to help get across the significance of it, especially for those viewers who are maybe not from the UK, maybe don't know the recent history of those islands. I was born in 1985, and to be fair, I was quite young age. I started paying attention to things like the news, very young. I had a fascination towards that which was going on in the outside world beyond just what was happening in my own personal life. In fact, looking back now, it was actually a form of escapism. However, so throughout the 90s, there was almost every week, or certainly every other week, something to do with the IRA, the troubles in Ireland, bomb threats, explosives threats. And it's a funny thing because the terrorism that was conducted by the IRA back in the 90s, yes, it was terrorism, but more often than not, the places where these devices were planted were called ahead of time, forewarned. It usually then get evacuated, and a bomb squad would come in and deal with the device. It was actually quite rare for a device to actually go off. It did happen, and I suspect a lot of times it was actually an accident. Those things will happen with homemade explosives. I have military experience. I can tell you that. Creating such things in a DIY fashion, that accidents tend to happen. The point is there was a kind of honor code to it. There was an attempt to avoid bloodshed, death, especially women and children. There was a kind of honor code to it. Still the wrong way of going about things. But it's not like the terrorism that is operating and is alive and well today in the UK and Europe. The terrorism that occurs now is of a level of barbarism that is self-evident, very apparent, extremely apparent, demonic in its demonic nature. Seeming destruction for, well, it's not even seeming, it's destruction for destruction's sake. Very thin veneer of a higher purpose or a meaningful cause. So, throughout my youth, it was constant, never ending. It seemed like it would never end. Could never be a resolution to the whole thing. Nationalists, loyalists in Ireland. And then rewind 3 weeks ago when these events began to unfold in the UK as a response to very brutal acts of terror, and I'm going to call them acts of terror because that's in essence what they created. It created terror, as well as anger. And as angry protests began to emerge and break out in Ireland as well as the UK, I was looking through the footage as it was coming out, and I saw an Irish unionist, loyalist, whatever you want to call it, and an Irish nationalist, side by side with their flags, marching in unity, brought together in what I imagine they would perceive as brothers in Christ. Their disputes about the way in which they revere Christ put to one side, and the history, the history which, dominated the psyche, certainly the psyche of the public when I was in my youth. It was a moment and a thing that I didn't think I would, throughout my life, I didn't think I would see until I was old and grey. And I might not ever see it at all. And there it was, happening. In any other time of the old timeline, up to this point, that would have been headline news. Unionists and nationalists standing side by side to protect that which is most precious to them. Their families, their communities, their women, their children. It was incredible. But not a jot of it made it to any form of mainstream media. I am pretty sure GB News didn't cover it, and Talk Radio didn't cover it. I didn't see it in any form of quote-unquote official mainstream. Not one place. But I was in chats, X spaces, and looking through the engagement on X. It wasn't unnoticed. It was seen. And all of the response, I was in a spaces where it was full of Brits, but and Irish as well, and they were all coming together, nationalists, unionists, and the energy, the love, the release was incredible. And this leads me on to the second thing I want to talk about, which is the unity of GPMS as a vehicle, as a divine instrument for moving forward. This unity occurred in the unity in Ireland that I've talked up to now about occurred as a result of atrocious circumstances and events. In the heat and pressure of anger and despair and resentment and all of these emotional, low vibrational emotional frequencies, yet a higher thread of understanding of the necessity of unity managed to break through a generations old feud, blood feud. So unity is for those with sanity, soul, heart, understanding, and a desire to expand into greater levels of consciousness. Unity is inevitable, and it has now been demonstrated to have occurred even in the most intense and seemingly or infertile ground for it to happen, and it happened. As GPMS moves forward and more people begin to see the unity, an expressed common unity, and that is the unity in the notion or the concept of we can, or at least we should be, doing everything within our power to create a system which benefits everybody equally without placing a few on the top. It is technologically possible. The resources are abundant and there to do it. People say the willpower, it's the political willpower that isn't there. It's nothing to do with politics. It's got nothing to do with political willpower. Political willpower or politics is the distraction. It's the sovereign willpower. The willpower of the sovereign individual to determine their own reality, their own existence, their own actions. And a fully realized metahuman who is fully accountable to their actions and for their actions up to that point and every action going forward can do that. Can, in essence, form unity regardless of subjective perspective, beliefs, understandings, are able to place function over form, operating meticulously from that understanding that as long as we each understand the function going on, that form can be applied at any point in time, but is always subject to and never in interference of the function and the desired outcome from the application of that function. Yeah. And in this instance, unity. Unity from pressure. Unity from the release of pressure. GPMS offers and essentially invites people to consider is the very simple notion that wants access to all resources required, quote unquote, needed for any individual to live comfortably, happy, healthy, in a state of constant expansion. The only thing preventing that occurring right now is choice, nothing else. And the agreement between all to choose to do that and then to act upon it. No, it's too simple. It can't be that. It can't be. No, it's much more complicated because you got this. No, it really is. It really is. It's that simple. But oftentimes it's the magnitude of the simplicity that overwhelms a mind that is conditioned to believe that the way things have been, are the way things always are going to be. But that is breaking down now, massively. In the case of Ireland, extreme pressure created a unity. I thought I would, throughout most of my life, I struggled to believe that I would see it. But which is inevitably going to shift people towards the other form, or the other foundation for the wellspringing of unity, which is the release of anger, the release of fear, the release of blame, self-accountability, and the understanding that the only thing really required is shared agreement. That's it. Shared agreement. Then once shared agreement is reached, acted upon. That's it. You make it sound so simple. It's because it is. I don't make it sound simple. It makes itself sound simple because it is simple. I'm just the messenger. I'm not trying to make it anything. All I'm really doing is expressing it as is, and as certainly as I see it. I could go into all sorts of ways how I subjectively perceive it, but I'm trying to approach these things with the most objective perspective I can from the level of consciousness I am talking to it, any particular topic with. So yeah. So I'll finish off by saying, yeah, I wanted to make it known that I saw that moment. It made an impression on me. It moved me in the moment. And it was a very telling sign of things that are occurring now. As I speak, it is, what's the date? 16th of August, as I'm recording this now. I took part in an excellent meeting. I was very honoured to take part in yesterday with the chaps from the Assemblies of the World groups, John and Nick. Beautiful souls, excellent gentlemen. It was a fantastic conversation, super high energy, and the energy afterwards was phenomenal. It to me signalled a key juncture, milestone, landmark, if you will, in what is currently unfolding, and it's unfolding fast, folks, isn't it? Ooh. Hold on to your bootstraps. So, I'll round it off there. Thank you for listening up to this point, if you have listened up to this point. Love, light, gratitude, and watch this space.